Welcome to Decentralized News. This is our weekly news show where we cover the stories affecting the cryptocurrency space. I am your host, Pyre DeVries, joined as always by Ozzy. We have some important news to get right into. Quickly, nothing we say is financial advice, and please do your own research. We'll kind of do just a brief little macro overview before we get into the stories, the headlines this week. A bunch of earnings coming out this week. Companies with a total of over $10 trillion, worth a total of over $10 trillion are reporting this week, notably some tech. Microsoft and Google or Alphabet on Tuesday, Meta or Facebook on Wednesday, and Amazon and Intel on Thursday. For signs of recession in the market, this is kind of one to watch for a little bit.
Yeah, especially for the cryptocurrency space, watching how tech earnings are doing will be a good indication of what the outlook is on not only discretionary spending, but the strength of the overall market. If they're dropping quite hard or not meeting expectations, then that would not be a good sign for the economy as a whole.
I think of layoffs, but I also think of how is AI affecting it? Are they becoming more efficient? Are they going to be able to make money easier with all these new technologies? These are the two things that pop into mind for me.
Yeah, I'm more interested to see what the earnings expectations are, like if they're hitting earnings expectations of how sales are. Because if sales especially on the tech companies, are not as strong as one would like, then we're probably in for some trouble.
We also have some reports coming out this week with Economic Calendar Watch, GDP and initial jobless claims on Thursday and PCE on Friday. This is all going into the following week where we have our Fed meeting on Wednesday, 5/3 on May 3rd, with expectations overwhelmingly for a small rate hike.
Yeah, everyone's expecting a quarter basis point. When I say everyone, 99% on the current Fed watch. These numbers will also impact if we're going to be talking about a recession, especially the GDP. If GDP growth isn't up to par, up to snuff, then you might hear more of that talk of a recession. Overall, go ahead.
It looks for the expectations for the following meeting, the June 14th Fed meeting, that there won't be a rate hike. So one more and then done, possible.
That's what a lot of people are talking about. It's not confirmed. It's not guaranteed, but 90% of people are predicting no rate hike. Actually, 91% are expecting no rate hike at the next meeting, with only a small percentage, about 9%, predicting a potential bump.
Yeah, we know those numbers can change, but those are expectations, and how things move compared to expectations is what can really affect the market, is what I've noticed.
Oh, absolutely. When we're thinking May 3rd, if he comes out very clearly saying, "Oh, yeah, we're really jumping rates," then
we're signs that they want to do it again.
Yeah, if they pine that they're going to want to do it again, then you're going to start talking about, "Oh, okay. It's not one, there's another one coming." And the big other question is also, what are people expecting towards the end of the year, close of the year? We got 6 meetings left. What is everyone expecting going down? And although expectations have gotten a little bit more grounded in terms of not expecting rate cuts in July anymore, we're still leaning towards at least one rate cut before the end of the year, and potentially 2. So that's something to take into consideration. If he continues his message of no rate cuts before the end of the year, then the market could interact poorly with that news.
All right, we can get into some of the headlines. Argentina has seen rampant inflation, and they started running out of dollars in their banks. Argentina got a $45 billion IMF bailout, but it included that the country must take, an anti-cryptocurrency stance.
Yeah, so that's been abound on crypto Twitter in the last day and a half, or not even day and a half, last 24 hours. And everyone is, I wouldn't say freaking out, but what does that mean? Because Argentina was seen alongside Brazil as one of the more likely countries to be taking on potentially pro Bitcoin tendencies as inflation has eroded their dollars. But this is the problem with the current dollar system. You can just keep printing and printing, and the current economic system holds countries bound by debt. And it's the IMF is at least partially dependent on the US. And so the influence of trying to maintain the power of the US dollar is definitely strong in this anti-crypto stance that they're forcing Argentina to take.
Yeah, I guess the South America or Argentina, their central bank released a statement on Thursday saying that the country's financial sector is not allowed to provide services related to digital assets that are not regulated, effectively banning crypto transactions within the official economy. But yeah, I think there was some hope that things were going to get so bad that they might consider this totally different rail alternative. But they've taken this loan and kind of agreed to kind of stay in the same old system. And I agree with your sentiment how closely it's related to the United States and their anti-crypto stance and maintaining the dollar. They'll do whatever they can. And this just, I think, reinforces that. And speaking of trying to maintain the dollar, what they're fighting against is what's going on with the BRICS nation. And you brought up an article about 17 nations submitting membership requests.
Yeah, that's a huge number of nations submitting requests to want to join the BRICS community, just the counterpart to the G7. And what's really interesting about the BRICS is that their GDP by purchasing power equivalent P is now greater than that of the G7 countries. So that's very recent news. And so people are recognizing the power of the P and of BRICS. And so does this see us have an even further erosion of the US dollar? And does this mean that we see an even greater by the US against crypto, especially as we see more people take that route? Do we see more things like what we're seeing with Argentina on countries that US still has control over?
Yeah. And it seems to have gotten a lot of momentum after Ukraine and what they've done against Russia, the weaponization of the dollar. People are willing to turn towards countries like China. Yeah, it's a big shift on the macro level, for sure.
Oh, major shifts on the macro level. And
I'm reading this article. It doesn't specifically say which countries. I'm curious of these 19 countries.
Yeah, I haven't seen which countries either.
It'd be interesting to watch for. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, the numbers are kind of something, who it is will make a big difference. I haven't seen, and I think that'd be quite key. The original list was reported by Bloomberg, and we're trying to see, so at least 13 have formally asked and another 6 have asked informally. So that could be quite interesting.
Continuing on with that, in terms of pushing crypto outside the United States, crypto exchange Coinbase received license to operate in Bermuda. The U.S. crypto exchange received a Class F license from the Bermuda Monetary Authority, which allows the company to operate a digital assets exchange. It is not exactly clear what products or services will be offered, and a Coinbase spokesperson said, while we are excited to partner with the BMA, the Bermuda Monetary Authority, and have successfully obtained the license, nothing to announce today regarding our future plans.
This follows other comments that they've made, though, about potentially leaving the U.S. So,
right. Or getting pushed out of the U.S.
They've talked about being pushed out of the U.S., but also talked about basically abandoning the U.S. as a major enterprise for them because of the poor regulatory clarity. Brian Armstrong made those comments when he was at an event in Europe when he was prodded, I believe, by the UK PM, if I'm not mistaken, about whether or not we see a change in where they're located. And although he wasn't adamant that they would, he did not rule out the possibility.
It's definitely a tough environment in America right now, even causing Chamath, I struggle with his last name. I don't know if you can do it. Papatia. He came out saying on the podcast, crypto is dead in America. Crypto is dead in America. Warning regulators are coming for crypto companies, just like Coinbase. This is a company that tried to do it right, tried to come in the front door, and is having all the trouble in the world. And he went on actually to even point out that the closest exchange to be regulated and coming through the front door was FTX. You know what I mean? And like, how's that possible? But during only from Gary Gensler to the House Financial Services Committee, he also pointed this out, that Gary Gensler went out of his way. They were like, is there something you want to comment on that we haven't asked you? And he went out of his way and blaming the recent banking crisis on Bitcoin and crypto. And his point for saying that is that the United States, in all their comments, have firmly pointed their guns at crypto and will, by any means necessary, they'll blame environmental problems on it. They'll blame crisis in the banking sector on it. They're coming after it. That was his point.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he called the collapse of SVB the fault of cryptocurrency and was blaming the depegging of USDC for that. And that wasn't...
He went out of his way. It wasn't even like a direct question. It was like, is there anything you want to add? That's what he wanted to add.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And he makes no sense. If anything,
but it's kind of like the writing's on the wall. Eventually, we have to believe this stance that they're taking. There is some pushback going on, but at the same time, the current stance of those with the power and authority is very anti-crypto.
Yeah, it is very anti-crypto. I would say
it's like on all levels, and that's not even bringing it up like Janet Yellen and just maintaining Elizabeth Warren, maintaining the dollar dominance. There's other angles as well, but that they're coming after it for sure.
Oh, they're coming after it with a vengeance. And if we wanted to dive into his testimony, there's just so many things that he said that shows he's smarter and that it's more directed than anyone could have really imagined.
Yeah, he refused to say whether ETH was a security. Like, he was directly asked that. And then the other kind of interesting one is maybe he perjured himself. He denied ever buying Bitcoin and possessing Bitcoin.
He also has made some clear statements pointing out other cryptos. Algorand has been a big one that's been coming out of his mouth recently after a talk has come up of him basically praising Algorand.
Right. And I guess he knows the developer. Seems like the main guy behind it. Yeah, I saw that. So yeah, it's a tough environment to operate in, but there is some pushback. There's a story from the blog. Crypto regulation crypto legislation is picking up steam in the U.S. Congress. Momentum is building for the first major U.S. crypto legislation to have a realistic shot at becoming law. Members of the House and Senate have begun working together, and that's like the story, is that it picked up effort because there seems to be more appetite for it in the House, but they began coordinating with authors of high-profile, wide-ranging crypto policy senators in the Senate, Cynthia Lummis and Christian Gillibrand.
Yeah, they've pushed forward several proposals in the past. And
they were talking about like the end of April having an update, and now that's getting pushed back a little bit because they're trying to really make a big bill with compromises that's just bipartisan that everyone can get behind. And it would still have to get past Biden, which
feels like it would be a hard thing to do.
Yeah, anything crypto related, I feel like veto is on the table.
Yeah. I feel like that would be something that's pretty challenging to do in this current environment.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But that's what's going on in America. And in terms of pushing people out in the open arms, the European Parliament has voted for EU's landmark MiCA regulation. So lawmakers in the European Union on Thursday voted 517 to 38. If we had a vote like that,
That'd be incredible in the U.S.
That would overcome a veto. The veto isn't like, they just have to have a much bigger majority, I think. But it's the Markets in Crypto Assets Law. It's the first major jurisdiction in the world to introduce a comprehensive crypto law. Also, just to note, the European Parliament also voted in favor of a separate law known as the Transfer of Funds Regulation, which requires crypto operators to identify their customers for money laundering. So there's multiple efforts going on here.
Yeah, so essentially just mandatory KYC for crypto operators, which, I mean,
makes sense. But they're codified.
Yeah, they codified it. It makes sense. It's not something that's like totally outlandish. Yes, a lot of people in crypto want their privacy and like their privacy, but it's not absolutely outlandish to have KYC.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And it doesn't mean like other avenues can't exist. It just means to operate in the European Union and on an official level, yeah, you would have to, which it seems like, okay, that has to happen.
Yeah, that's a no-nonsense kind of approach. But seeing it's not overtly crypto-friendly, let's be honest.
Yeah, fair.
It's not, oh yeah, crypto holiday here. No, we're not
talking
talking
crypto. But at least it's like a front door you can go in.
Yes, exactly. And I think that is the thing we need to highlight. It is giving you a door to enter, and here are the rules that you need to follow.
Yeah, it's going to be about a year out, so people have time to get their head around it. Because it starts 12 months after publication in the EU's official journal, which is likely in June. So about a year from June, this becomes actual law.
Yeah, but I think that for a crypto company looking for clarity, at the very least, you've got that now.
Yeah, something. If you were operating a company and trying to be regulated, where would you want to go? United States or Europe, based on these two kind of stories, these two narratives going on right now?
At least based on current narratives, I'd be talking about going to the EU. There are other regulations in the EU that maybe make it not fully attractive to move there, but at the very least, yeah.
There's been a lot of news coming out of like Hong Kong and Asia.
That's the other spot where there's tons of positive news. Hong Kong has started really allowing the adoption of crypto within their territory. They essentially sweep the slate, shut down essentially everything for retail, and then have been slowly building it all back up. And that's what you need.
This next story, I kind of hope forces America into a hash war and just sucks them into Bitcoin maybe. But Russia developing special institutions to mine and transfer crypto across borders. Russia is reportedly developing special institutions to mine and transfer crypto. Specifically, the country has stated its intention to create a special organization will utilize digital assets for the purpose of international business dealing. So the central bank of the country is come out and made some comments. And they're saying like it's still going to be, they're pretty clear. Russia's a little bit of a mixed bag. It's like it's illegal to conduct crypto transactions in the country, but they're saying like, oh, but we can maybe mine Bitcoin and pay off debt internationally. That sounds like something we'd be okay to do.
Yeah, kind of getting a mixed language a little bit. It's kind of, yeah, you can't individually own Bitcoin. A Sberbank has allowed DeFi trading within their platform, but in general, it's like, yeah, you can't own it and you can't do stuff with it personally, but we as a country, we're going to take advantage of it.
And with the hash rates hitting all-time highs over and over again throughout this lull market, I don't know what you call it now, or bear or lull market, whatever you call it now, Russia coming more and more online.
Oh yeah, Russia is really positioning themselves to not take basically the US's crap. I would say it would be my definition of it. They don't want to deal with the US and the SWIFT banking system, so they're like,
They're motivated.
yeah, they're motivated. They want to do it. They want to operate under their rules, and so
But yeah, it also could lead to more FUD from the U.S. government. Just see, look, we're battling
right.
with Russia.
It could become a Cold War. It could literally become the Cold War of crypto.
This is what the bad guys do. They mine Bitcoin. We don't do that.
Yeah. We're not bad guys.
Yeah.
We don't mine Bitcoin.
But speaking of Bitcoin mining, what's going on in the United States? There was a bill passed in Arkansas protecting mining rights. So the Arkansas Data Centers Act is now moving to the governor's office for approval. It grants crypto miners the same rights as any data center. So just the rights to be able to conduct business cannot be infringed upon. The bill outlines that Arkansas government should not impose a different requirement for digital assets mining because of digital asset mining business that is applicable to any requirement for a data center. So clearly just allows them free market access. But the governor has to sign it.
And I think that's the key point right here.
Yeah.
We've seen...
I think this passed a couple of weeks ago. It still hasn't been. I haven't found anything that says it's been signed. And that's always a little scary to me, especially after what happened in Arizona.
Yeah. So let's talk about the story in Arizona.
Go ahead.
A pro-Bitcoin mining bill was passed in Arizona. It essentially eliminated double taxing on Bitcoin mining. So right now, Bitcoin is taxed when it's mined and then again when it's sold. So therefore, double tax. The argument is that no one else is double taxed for extracting quote unquote natural resources or other kind of approaches. And so the vote was to eliminate the tax on mining, but continue the tax on selling.
Sounds fair.
Sounds like a fair, in general, sounds like a fair deal. However, that has now been vetoed by the Arizona state governor.
And I'm a little bit familiar with Arizona politics only because my family's out there. And Katie Hobbs eked out an election victory over Carrie Lake, who's I would imagine would have maybe very well have signed this bill. But it's a Democrat versus a Republican. Not to overemphasize it, but I continue to see kind of these lines being drawn between Democrats and Republicans in terms of their stances on crypto.
I would say yes, that there's still that kind of piece, and it's a piece that's been highlighted in several podcasts that I contribute to. I would say my big note is that Arizona has passed several other pro-cryptocurrency bills in the last 6 months, a year. If we think about the Bitcoin is legal tender bill that passed and in Arizona, the right to the mining protections that were passed in Arizona. There's been several pro-crypto bills that have passed, and it's only this one regarding taxation that hasn't. And so maybe it's more of a, hey, we don't want to give up those extra tax dollars because there is a decent amount of mining hash power in Arizona.
Yeah.
And so maybe...
Fair enough, but she did just get in the office, and she set a record in terms of vetoing already. Just the power of the veto. You gotta watch out for it.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Moving on to Texas, I thought this was a really cool story. There's a Texas startup that lets people buy real estate with cryptocurrency. My E-Listing, a new startup based in Cedar Park near Austin, launched a Zillow-like website where people can list commercial and residential properties for sale using cash or cryptocurrency. Base Commerce will convert buyers' crypto into cash, and Millennial Title and Championship Title will handle the title work. That was a lot of titles. Okay. One North Texas residential property is already up for sale on the platform. A 3/4 acre home site for $499,000 in cash or 17.5 Bitcoin or 256 Ethereum. So I guess those are the types of cryptos you can use. They also had a couple of commercial properties. They were listing around 150 Bitcoin, 2,200 Ethereum, right around there.
Yeah, they're not listed for cheap.
Yeah, yeah, but still interesting nonetheless.
It's interesting. To be very clear, this is very. I wouldn't even say this is Web 2.5. If you follow the Not Crypto Bros, we talk a lot about Web 2.5, which is essentially companies that are embracing Web3 technology without necessarily calling it Web3 or calling them Web3 technologies. So if we think about Starbucks or Reddit or whatever, or other companies that kind of used NFTs and are using that kind of tech but not calling it that, we're saying those are Web 2.5. This isn't even, I wouldn't even say Web 2.5. All it's saying is, hey, we know that there's a bunch of people that have money in Bitcoin. Let's allow people to use that money, and instead of acquiring additional capital gains, they can buy a house with that extra Bitcoin or Ethereum.
As a kind of a maxi or a holder, there's very few things I would consider selling Bitcoin for, but not that I can afford this, but to buy a house is one of them. You got to live. It's a roof over your head.
Oh, that's it. No, it's integrating Bitcoin and Ethereum into the financial model. It absolutely is.
Real estate's a huge market. And the other cool thing from the story was that these transactions can be taken care of in like a day. The possibility is there. I don't know that they've ever done a transaction yet. This is just starting. I think it officially launches actually this week, Thursday or something. They have some stuff listed, but I'll be watching it though. See, I'm sure someone will.
Just for the prominence.
Yeah, we'll see. But it's Texas only right now, but the company does plan to expand to 2 or 3 additional states by June. So we'll see how this unfolds. Another adoption news, Telegram now has a wallet where you can buy, withdraw, and exchange Bitcoin. Did you see this one?
Yeah, I saw that. I've also seen some comments on Reddit, on Reddit and on Twitter that have absolutely cracked me up. People already get scammed enough on Telegram. They don't need to be buying and selling Bitcoin on Reddit, on Telegram as well. Jeez, I'm getting all those platforms confused at the moment.
It's all good. Yeah, I guess this was Telegram didn't actually develop it. It's a third party. They're using their like open API. So it's permissionless, which is good.
Yeah, it follows, although the integration of eToro was not done through a third party, it follows Twitter's integration of the ability to purchase other cryptocurrencies on the platform essentially via Twitter. That's a cool move to try to compete, at least, with Twitter and their most recent attention.
Yeah, it's safe to say me and you probably won't be using this Telegram wallet, but interesting adoption all the same.
Exactly.
There was a bill in Texas also. Crypto exchanges must provide proof of reserves. So trying to protect investors. I like to see this.
Yeah, it's a great way to try to protect investors. It's kind of something that was being demanded to a certain extent by investors, especially after the whole FTX disaster, but was losing some weight and was losing some fervor, and it's now come back, and it's good to see something that should be fundamental and should make a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Actually, reality actually happen and actually required.
Yeah, especially a centralized exchange.
Absolutely. I don't think it's something that should be moved to DEXs because DEXs operate on such a different model, but at the very least,
we're growing more and more in popularity, so maybe this isn't as important of a bill as it might seem, but it's still important option. And provide some clarity in the United States.
Oh yeah, I think that the clarity that it's going to provide is quite crucial, I would say.
We have a couple of little DeFi stories. Helium migrated to Solana. The Helium network migration to Solana has been successfully completed, according to their official statement on April 19th. So they don't have to spend all their time and energy developing a layer one.
It's interesting. It's more adoption on Solana.
Yeah, I was surprised Solana because they mentioned one of the reasons is it increases reliability, and I was like, wait, it's on Solana, right?
Yeah, that sounds like a counter
Like transaction
argument.
speed, I can get behind. It's okay. It's Internet of Things kind of technology, so the sheer number of transactions and it being very cheap is important. But the reliability is okay. Maybe there was other choices, but it's still cool for Solana. They continue to build.
Yeah, it's cool for Solana. I would say, yeah, reliability is not the argument that I'd be making for Solana at this time. I would be making, yeah, speed of transactions, just total transaction dollars. Like, it's a lot cheaper to transact on Solana than it is Ethereum and many of the other layer 2s and layer 1s. But yeah, reliability is not the argument that I would be making.
There's one other kind of fun little story in the cryptoverse, as some would say. Uniswap trades soar as PEPE mania, just in general, crypto market. The decentralized crypto exchange experienced its highest transaction count in a day this week, up 66% from any previous peak.
That is ridiculous. Have you gotten in on any of these meme coins?
No, I don't mess with meme coins. I can't say I never have, but yeah, I don't mess around with them. I've experimented with everything in DeFi, I feel like, to a certain degree, but generally speaking, yeah, I'm pretty hands off. And by the time you hear about them on this level, typically it's way too late. You know what I mean? You got to be willing to take the chance when it's really risky.
Yeah, people who've made the millions are people who bought it at 69,000
Yeah, it really, I
market
mean,
cap.
the poly gambling is not far off.
No.
But God bless them all.
Yeah, I want to call this last story. Are we in shitcoin season, and does that mean we're in the season of we're losing momentum upwards and we're going to start seeing a gradual pullback in the market, end of this rally? Is that what we're seeing? What do you think?
I just watched is Benjamin Cowan. I don't know if you follow him, but he had an interesting video about the summer lull 2.0. But he was comparing the summer lull pre-halving, so a year before a halving cycle, that it wouldn't be unusual to see a lull. And it's pumped pretty good, quite honestly, from the beginning of the year. I wouldn't be surprised how far it will test. I know you were saying like 20,000 last week, and that kind of shocked me. The more I think about it, it's okay. It's possible prolonged over the summer. It could test levels like that, but we'll see. It's got to break 27 first. So
Yeah,
time.
that's it. It makes me think we're seeing all these shit coins, and it reminds me of what happened in 2021. So, Bitcoin started falling a little bit, not dramatically. We were sitting around 55, I think, or 60. Maybe it was 60. And all of these meme coins just started taking off. And it was like, there's no rhyme or reason for it. Degen plays and DeFi were a dime a dozen, and you could buy a whitelist and sell for a 4 or 5x at launch. Like it was candy, taking candy from a baby. But that really quickly changed, and we saw that big pullback in the market.
It's certainly possible to make money on those coins, but yeah, the odds are against you, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I've yet to see one that didn't come down, so careful out there. But we can wrap it up there. Thank you very much for listening to Decentralized News. We post to YouTube first, so please consider subscribing to catch our videos as soon as they drop. This is not financial advice. We are not financial advisors. This show is presented for educational and entertainment purposes only. please do your own research before making any decisions, any investment decisions. Thanks very much for joining us, and we hope to see you next week.